Several patrol cars arrived just after 8 o'clock this morning at the Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, where Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has recently moved after he moved from Windsor. It is also coincidentally his 66th birthday. And we also know that the Prime Minister, when he was interviewed this morning, said that nobody was above the law when he was asked if Andrew should volunteer himself to the police.
Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by our correspondent Terry Stiastny. Terry, hello.
Hello.
Look, I know this is literally happening as we're talking, but what do we know?
Well, we know that there has been, in the last couple of minutes, a statement from Thames Valley Police who have said that there is an investigation ongoing into suspicion of misconduct in public office. They say, we have today arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on suspicion of misconduct in public office and are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. The man remains in police custody at this time. We will not be naming the arrested man as per national guidance.
I mean, this is a huge story. This is the King's brother arrested by police. One sort of has to go back. I don't know to when. To the almost the sort of the
yes. I'm sure there are some historical
yeah.
comparisons with this, but I'm not sure what they are at the moment. But we know that several patrol cars arrived just after 8 o'clock this morning at the Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, where Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has recently moved after he moved from Windsor. It is also coincidentally his 66th birthday. And we also know that the Prime Minister, when he was interviewed this morning, said that nobody was above the law when he was asked if Andrew should volunteer himself to the police.
Well, indeed. I think we've got a clip of Keir Starmer saying just that to the BBC a little bit earlier before the arrest.
Well, I think that's a matter for the police. They will conduct their own investigations. But one of the core principles in our system is that everybody is equal under the law and nobody is above the law. And it is really important that that is applied across the board.
Well, just to recap for anyone who's just joining us, we are seeing reports this morning that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The Royal correspondent Sarah Hewson is with me now. Sarah, good morning.
Morning to you, Hugo.
Thanks for being with us. What have you heard so far?
Well, obviously, this is a huge development. I think this story had been gathering steam over recent days, with more and more police forces joining the National Crime Agency in that investigation. And today, just before 8 o'clock, there were a number of unmarked police cars and plainclothed officers arriving at Wood Farm on the Sandringham Estate. Now, that's the property where Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is staying temporarily until the home that he is due to be moving into, Marsh Farm, is ready for occupancy. And that came after, of course, he was asked to leave under the cover of darkness Royal Lodge because the stain that was being spread was seen as being just too great. And now we have the King's brother under arrest for under allegations of misconduct in public office. And this obviously coming about as a result of the release of the latest batch of the Epstein files, which showed that in those files, it is alleged that Andrew had forwarded emails that were sent to him based on his work as a UK trade envoy. So emails that had been sent to him by government departments after his visits to Asia, for example, emails and documents concerning investment opportunities in Helmand Province, documents pertaining to the Icelandic banking crisis. It's alleged, according to the release of the files, that these emails were then forwarded by Andrew to Jeffrey Epstein and his associates. And as a UK trade envoy, Andrew was bound to by a duty of confidentiality. He was party to highly sensitive governmental information of national security. And we have seen Thames Valley Police take this on. And today, Andrew's 66th birthday, we have seen this extraordinary scene of police cars swooping on this property on the Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor now under arrest for charges of misconduct in public office.
Sarah, look, we obviously can't know at this stage, but would your expectation have been that the King would have been informed about this in advance?
We can't know, but the King had made it clear in his statement at the beginning of last week that he would not stand in the way of any police inquiries. I mean, it's highly sensitive. The royal family want to distance themselves from Andrew, and that was why we saw this very decisive action taken in October last year when Andrew was stripped of all titles and kicked out of Royal Lodge. They want to distance themselves, but he is still a member of the royal family and he is still the King's brother. And I think it is likely, given the security around this as well, that the King may have been informed that this was taking place, but we just don't know at this stage.
I mean, with the various stories that have been swirling around Andrew recently, Sarah, and of course before the latest release of the Epstein files, there were also the suspicions of what he'd asked his various security guards to do, going back a little bit further. Will there be shock about this in royal circles, or will they be thinking, you know what, something like this was bound to happen sooner or later?
I still think it's shocking, although I think there was this feeling that this was what we were building towards. There was a sense of inevitability that this was going to end up this way.
Look, Sarah, please stay with me. I'm still joined by Terry Stiastny, our correspondent here at Times Radio. Terry, we seem to be look, this is a dramatic royal story, dramatic political story, but we seem to sort of be within a whisker of a proper constitutional crisis here. This is a difficult thing for the Prime Minister to engage with and talk about.
Yes, because obviously there are all these police investigations going on. And as you say, the Prime Minister was speaking about it this morning, obviously before any news of the arrest had broken. But as you say, yeah, it's been quite difficult even for Parliament to discuss anything to do with the royal family. You know, the speakers have tended to say, you're not allowed to talk about that. But yes, the whole relationship, I think, between government, Prime Minister, and what's usually the ceremonial role of the royal family that doesn't get involved in politics. Obviously Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor is effectively being kicked out of the royal family and he's being treated as any normal citizen now. But I think looking at the scope of these allegations, and of course Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing up and in his previous statements. It's all interlinked in sort of very unusual ways.
Sarah, look, I mean, the royal family, they've worked so hard to, I guess, sever and then cauterise the gangrenous limb of the family that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has become. But there must be a part of you that thinks to yourself this morning, is this how we begin to lose our monarchy?
Look, it's been incredibly difficult. No matter what action they have taken, this has cast a huge shadow. I mean, that's an understatement, really, isn't it? Over everything that they have been doing, every engagement that the King and the Queen take part in, they are heckled, asked, what did you know about Andrew? Prince William's visit to Saudi Arabia was completely overshadowed by the allegations surrounding his uncle. We had Prince William giving an interview yesterday on the BBC where he was talking about mental health. There were no questions asked about his uncle, and that felt like the elephant in the room, and there's now criticism that wasn't addressed. We've had these two statements from Buckingham Palace and from Kensington Palace, both of which last week saying that they were profoundly concerned by this and their thoughts were with the victims. But right now that doesn't feel anywhere near enough. So significant is this. And yes, they have sought to distance themselves from Andrew, but he is still the King's brother.
I mean, so just last week when there were early reports that the King himself, before he was King, had been involved in helping Andrew with the money to pay off Virginia Giuffre, the palace hit back against that very swiftly and very hard. But there must be a terror that even if it's an email somewhere, even if it's a meeting, even if it's a conversation, that the King somehow gets dragged into this.
I mean, Buckingham Palace very quick. And this is an organisation that doesn't tend to move very fast. And it was very, very quick to deny any reporting that King Charles, then Prince Charles, had given Andrew any money towards that settlement for Virginia Giuffre, which is thought to be around £12 million. And I think that was significant in itself. That he is so toxic. He is absolutely toxic. We're also getting a lot of briefings about how much William has wanted to distance the royal family from Andrew for some years now. And this has been a dilemma for the Queen, for how she dealt with her son, the king, how he deals with his brother, and Prince William, his uncle. I mean, I think he has wanted to take the toughest action on this, but has had to toe the line. There's also been a sense that they have a duty of care over Andrew. And if they didn't take care of him, if the king hadn't given him accommodation on Sandringham, for example, what would he have done? Where would he have gone? A lot of Andrew's troubles have come around money and taking money, seeking money out from wealthy individuals in the Middle East, for example. Jeffrey Epstein is a wealthy benefactor. Yeah. These friends in low places that he has cultivated over the years are at the root of a lot of Andrew's problems.
Sarah Hewson, thank you very much indeed, and Terry Stiastny as well. Thank you very much indeed for being with me. We're obviously going to be sticking with this story for a while. We'll be back in just a moment. This is Hugo Rifkind here on Times Radio.